The great hall of the Vex Empire buzzed with the sound of alien laughter. Commander Vex sat on his crystal throne, watching the holographic display that showed a small blue planet in a distant corner of the galaxy. The planet was called Earth, and its inhabitants called themselves humans. "Look at them," Vex said to his council members. His voice carried across the hall like rolling thunder. "They think they can threaten us with their tiny ships and weak weapons." The other Vex leaders joined in the laughter. General Kix, the Empire's top military commander, stepped forward. His purple skin gleamed under the hall's bright lights. "My lord, our scouts report that these humans still use chemical rockets. Their fastest ships take years to travel between planets in their own system." "And their weapons?" asked Vex, already knowing the answer would amuse him. "Primitive projectiles." "And nuclear devices," Kix replied with a sneer. "Our shields can stop their strongest attacks without even warming up. One of our battle cruisers has more firepower than their entire planet." The council erupted in fresh laughter. The Vex Empire had ruled over 300 star systems for 2,000 years. They had crushed countless species who dared to oppose them. The humans seemed like nothing more than insects trying to fight giants. Admiral Zix, the Empire's naval commander, pulled up more data on the holographic display. "Their largest warships are only 300 meters long. Our smallest fighters are bigger than that. They have maybe 500 ships total across their entire system." 500? Vex laughed so hard his throne shook. "We have 50,000 ships in our grand fleet alone. This is not even worth our time." But then a communication came through from the human delegation. A middle-aged human male appeared on the screen. He wore a simple blue uniform with small metal pins on his chest. His name was Captain Reed, and he spoke for something called the United Earth Defense Force. "People of the Vex Empire," Reed said in a calm voice, "we know you have taken over the Tau system, which borders our space. We ask you to withdraw your forces and leave our neighbors in peace." The entire hall fell silent for a moment, then exploded in the loudest laughter yet. Vex wiped tears from his 6 eyes as he looked at the human on the screen. "Little human," Vex said, "you amuse us greatly. Your entire species could not defeat even one of our patrol groups. You have no right to make demands of the mighty Vex." "Empire." Reed's expression did not change. "We are giving you fair warning. Leave the Tau system within 7 Earth days, or we will consider it an act of war." "War?" General Kix stepped closer to the screen. "You want war with us? We could turn your little blue world into space dust with a single command." "Perhaps," Reed replied, "but we will not stand by while you enslave innocent people. 7 days." The transmission ended. The hall was quiet for several seconds before the laughter started again, louder than before. "Did you hear that?" Vex asked his council. "They want to fight us? The humans think they can take on the greatest empire in the galaxy. Shall the first prepare the fleet to destroy them, my lord?" General Kix asked, still chuckling. Vex waved a clawed hand dismissively. "No, let them come to us. I want to see what these brave little humans think they can do. It will be entertaining to watch them try." Admiral Zix brought up tactical displays. "Our forces in the Tau system include 12 battle cruisers, 40 destroyers, and 200 fighters. More than enough to handle anything the humans might send." "And if they somehow manage to scratch our paint?" Vex asked mockingly. "The home fleet has 500 capital ships ready to deploy," Zix replied. "We could be at their Earth in 2 weeks and end this joke permanently." The council members began making bets on how long the human attack would last. Some said minutes, others said seconds. None gave the humans more than an hour against Vex forces. As the meeting ended, Vex looked back at the image of Earth on the display. Such a small, insignificant world. The humans living there had no idea what real power looked like. They had never faced an enemy like the Vex Empire. "Let them come," Vex said to himself as his council members filed out. "We will give them a lesson they will never forget. Those who survive, anyway." The great hall slowly emptied, but the sound of alien laughter seemed to echo in the air long after the last Vex had left. None of them realized they had just made the biggest mistake in their empire's 2,000-year history. The humans were coming, and they were nothing like what the Vex expected. 7 days passed quickly in the Vex Empire. Commander Vex had almost forgotten about the human threat when his communication system buzzed with an urgent message. Admiral Zix appeared on the screen, his purple face showing confusion rather than amusement. "My lord," Zix said, "the humans have arrived at the Tau system." Vex leaned forward on his throne. "Already? How many ships did they bring for this suicide mission?" "That's the strange part," Zix replied. "Our sensors show only 50 human vessels. They're moving in a tight formation toward our main battle group." Vex laughed. 50 ships? I expected at least their full fleet of 500. These humans are even more foolish than we thought. Have you destroyed them yet? Well, my lord, that's why I'm calling. Something seems odd about their approach. The main display in the Great Hall activated, showing the tactical situation. In the Tau system, 12 massive Vex battle cruisers hung in space like sleeping giants, each one over 2 kilometers long. Around them, 40 destroyers and 200 fighters formed a protective screen. The human ships looked like tiny dots approaching this massive force. General Kix entered the hall, moving quickly toward the throne. "My lord, we're receiving reports from the Tau system that concern me." "Concerns?" "About 50 human ships facing." "Our entire battle group?" Vex's amusement was clear in his voice. "The humans are not behaving as expected," Hicks said. "They're not charging in with weapons blazing like most species do. Instead, they're moving in perfect formation, maintaining communication silence, and their energy signatures are unusual." On the display, the human ships continued their steady approach. They were simple-looking vessels, gray and angular, with no decoration or impressive weapons visible on their hulls. To Vex's eyes, they looked like cargo ships rather than warships. "Admiral Zix," Vex commanded, "destroy them now. I grow tired of this game." "Yes, my lord." "Battle Group Commander Rex, you are cleared to engage the human vessels." The display showed the Vex forces moving into attack formation. The massive battle cruisers rotated to bring their main weapons to bear on the approaching humans. Energy readings spiked as the Vex ships charged their plasma cannons and particle beams. Then something unexpected happened. The human ships suddenly broke formation and scattered in all directions. But instead of running away, they moved with incredible speed and precision. Their gray hulls seemed to shimmer and fade, making them harder to track on sensors. "What are they doing?" Vex demanded. Before anyone could answer, the first human ship reached the outer edge of the Vex formation. Instead of engaging the fighters, it flew straight past them toward one of the destroyers. The Vex ship fired its weapons, but the beams passed through empty space where the human vessel had been a moment before. The human ship struck the destroyer not with weapons, but with its own hull. There was a bright flash, and both ships vanished in a ball of expanding energy. "Impossible." General Kix stared at the display. "Did that human ship just ram our destroyer?" More flashes appeared across the battle formation as other human ships followed the same pattern. They moved too fast for Vex weapons to track properly, slipping through the defensive screen like shadows. When they reached their targets, they crashed into them with devastating effect. "They're using suicide attacks," Admiral Zix said, his voice filled with disbelief. "Each human ship is destroying itself to take out one of ours." But Vex noticed something else on the tactical display. The explosions were far too large for simple ramming attacks. "What kind of power source are those ships using?" he asked. The answer came from Battle Group Commander Rex, his voice tight with panic. "My lord, our sensors show massive antimatter signatures. These humans are turning their entire ships into antimatter bombs." The great hall fell silent. Antimatter was one of the most dangerous substances in the universe. The Vex used small amounts of it in their most powerful weapons, but the humans were using it as fuel for their ships. When those ships crashed into Vex vessels, they released the same energy as a small star dot. In less than 10 minutes, 20 Vex ships had been destroyed. The human force was down to 30 vessels, but they showed no signs of stopping their deadly attacks. "Pull back," Vex shouted. "Order all ships to retreat to safe distance." But it was too late. The remaining human ships had already penetrated deep into the Vex formation. More explosions lit up space as destroyers and fighters vanished in antimatter fire. Even the mighty battle cruisers, with their thick armor and powerful shields, could not survive direct hits from ships that had become bombs. When the attack finally ended, the Tau system was filled with debris. Of the 12 battle cruisers, only 3 remained. Most of the destroyers and fighters were gone. 30 human ships had destroyed over 200 Vex vessels in less than 20 minutes. The Great Hall was completely silent. No one was laughing anymore. Asterisk. Commander Vex stared at the tactical display in shock. The debris field that had once been his mighty battle group drifted silently through space. His clawed hands gripped the arms of his throne so tightly that the crystal began to crack. "How?" he whispered. "How did 50 primitive ships destroy our forces?" Admiral Zix was studying the sensor readings from the battle. His face had turned a pale shade of purple. "My lord, we underestimated them completely. These humans ... They think differently than any species we've encountered." "Explain," Vex demanded. "Most species try to preserve their ships and crews in battle," Zix said. "They use tactics designed to win while minimizing losses. But the humans turned their ships into weapons. They sacrificed everything for maximum damage." General Kix paced back and forth in front of the throne. "It's insane. No civilized species would waste resources like that. Ships take years to build. Crews take decades to train. Yet they threw it all away in minutes." But Vex was beginning to understand something that terrified him. "They didn't waste anything," he said slowly. "They traded 50 ships for 200 of ours. In their minds, that was a victory." A new communication came through from the human Captain Reed. He appeared on the main screen, his calm expression unchanged from their first meeting. Behind him, Vex could see the bridge of a human ship, simple, functional, with no decoration or luxury. "Commander Vex," Reed said, "I hope you received our message clearly. The Tau system is now free from your occupation. We suggest you do not return. You destroyed your own ships." Vex shouted at the screen. "You killed your own people. What kind of monsters are you?" Reed's expression hardened slightly. "The kind that keep our promises." Every person on those 30 ships volunteered for the mission. They knew they wouldn't be coming home, but they also knew their sacrifice would save millions of innocent lives in the Tau system. 30 ships? General Kix stepped closer to the screen. "Our sensors showed 50 human vessels. 20 of our ships survived the battle." Reed replied, "They're currently helping evacuate the remaining Vex survivors from the debris field. We don't leave wounded enemies to die in space." The Vex leaders exchanged glances. Even after suffering heavy casualties, the humans were rescuing their enemies? This made no sense to them. "You cannot defeat the entire Vex Empire with these tactics," Admiral Zix said. "We have thousands of ships. You cannot build enough suicide vessels to destroy us all." Reed smiled for the first time, but it was not a pleasant expression. "Admiral, You still don't understand us at all. We don't need to build new ships. Every human vessel can become a weapon when necessary. Every freighter, every transport, every exploration ship carries antimatter fuel. And every human crew will volunteer for the mission if needed. The implications hit Vex like a physical blow. The human trade ships that regularly passed through Vex space, the exploration vessels that had been cataloging star systems, the passenger, transports that carried human colonists, they were all potential weapons. You're threatening to turn your entire fleet into bombs? Vex asked. If that's what it takes to stop you from enslaving innocent people, yes, Reed replied. But we prefer a different solution. Leave the systems you've occupied in the last year. Return the people you've enslaved to their home worlds. Do this, and there will be no more conflict between us. General Kix laughed, but it sounded forced. You make demands as if you've already won. You destroyed one battle group, human. We have hundreds more. Do you? Reed asked. Because our intelligence suggests that your forces are already spread thin across your empire. You're fighting rebellions on 12 worlds, dealing with pirates in the outer systems, and maintaining occupation forces on 300 planets. How many ships can you actually spare to fight us? The question hung in the air. Vex realized that the human was right. The Empire's strength was an illusion. They controlled vast territories, but only because most species didn't fight back effectively. A single determined enemy using unconventional tactics could cause massive damage. You have 1 week to begin. Withdrawing from the occupied systems, Reed continued. If you don't, we'll assume you want to continue this war. And I promise you, Commander Vex, you won't enjoy the consequences. The transmission ended. The Great Hall remained silent for long minutes as the Vex leaders absorbed what they had heard. Finally, Admiral Zix spoke. My lord, perhaps we should consider their demands. The humans are clearly more dangerous than we thought, but Vex's pride would not allow retreat. No, we are the Vex Empire. We do not bow to threats from primitive species. Summon the Grand Fleet. We will crush these humans completely and make an example of their world. General Kix nodded reluctantly. Yes, my lord. I'll begin preparations immediately. As his commanders, left to carry out orders, Vex stared at the image of Earth on his display. The small blue world looked so peaceful, so helpless. But now he knew better. Somewhere on that planet, humans were preparing for war, and they were nothing like any enemy the Vex had ever faced. 3 months later, the Vex Empire was in chaos. Commander Vex sat in his throne room, but it no longer felt like the center of a mighty empire. Reports flooded in from across Vex space, each one worse than the last. My lord, Admiral Zix said as he entered the hall. His once proud uniform was wrinkled and stained. Dark circles surrounded his 6 eyes. We've lost contact with the Beta Sector fleet. Lost contact? Vex's voice was hollow. Or destroyed like the others? Unknown, my lord. The last transmission showed human ships approaching their position. That was 6 hours ago. General Kix limped into the hall, his left arm in a medical support device. He had barely survived the battle at the Gamma system, where a single human freighter had crashed into his command ship's bridge. The rebellion on Kree Prime has spread to 12 more worlds, he reported. The local populations saw what happened. To our fleets and decided to fight back. Vex closed his eyes. In 3 months, the humans had destroyed over 40% of the Vex military. They didn't use massive fleets or advanced technology. Instead, they used something the Vex had never encountered before: complete dedication to their cause. Human ships appeared everywhere across Vex space. Sometimes they were old cargo vessels that suddenly revealed hidden weapon systems. Other times they were sleek warships that struck fast and vanished before Vex forces could respond. But most terrifying of all were the suicide ships, vessels, that existed for one purpose only, to deliver antimatter warheads directly into Vex targets. "How do they keep finding our forces?" Vex asked. "Our military movements are classified at the highest levels." "The humans have allies now," General Kix replied. "Every species we've enslaved is sending them intelligence. Our own subjects are working against us." It was true. The humans had done something no enemy had ever managed before. They had turned the Vex Empire's own citizens against it. By liberating enslaved populations and treating prisoners with mercy, the humans had shown the galaxy what real strength looked like. Not the strength to conquer, but the strength to sacrifice for others. A communication request came through. The main screen activated to show Captain Reed, but he was no longer alone. Representatives from dozens of species stood behind him. Former slaves of the Vex Empire who had joined the human cause. "Commander Vex," Reed said, "this is your final warning. Surrender now, and we'll allow you to keep 10 systems around your home world. Continue fighting, and we'll remove your empire completely." Vex tried to summon his old arrogance, but it felt hollow now. "You're offering terms to us? You still only have a few hundred ships." "Actually, we have several thousand now," Reed replied calmly. "Every species you've oppressed has contributed ships and crews to our alliance. The Tau people alone have provided 200 vessels. The Kree rebels have added 300 more. And every day, more of your former subjects join us." Behind Reed, Vex could see aliens of many different species working together on the human ship's bridge. They wore a mixture of uniforms and equipment, but they all shared the same determined expression. "How is this possible?" Admiral Zix whispered. "Different species don't cooperate like this. They fight over resources, territory, trade rights." "They do when they have a common enemy," Reed answered, apparently hearing the question. "And when they see an example of true leadership. Humans don't fight for conquest or glory, Admiral. We fight to protect those who can't protect themselves." General Kix stepped forward, his injury making him move carefully. "Even if you defeat U.S. human, you cannot hold our territory. Empires need strong central control to function." "We're not building an empire," Reed said. "We're creating something your people never understood. A voluntary alliance of free worlds. Each species will govern itself, but they'll all agree to defend each other against threats like yours." The concept was alien to Vex thinking. Every galactic civilization they knew was based on conquest and control. The strong ruled the weak. But the humans were proposing something different. Cooperation between equals. "You're dreaming," Vex said. "It won't work. Without fear to maintain order, your alliance will collapse into chaos." Reed's expression softened slightly. "Commander, your empire has ruled through fear for 2,000 years. Has it brought peace, prosperity, happiness to your subjects? Or has it only brought endless rebellions, constant warfare, and the need for ever more oppression to maintain control?" Vex had no answer. The Vex Empire was indeed plagued by constant unrest, requiring massive military forces just to maintain order. They had never built anything lasting or beautiful, only the machinery of conquest. "You have 24 hours to decide," Reed continued. "Surrender and keep your core worlds, or fight to the end and lose everything. The choice is yours." The transmission ended, leaving the Vex leaders alone with their thoughts and their crumbling empire. Commander Vex stood at the window of his throne room, looking out at the fleet assembled around his home world. 200 ships, all that remained of the once mighty Vex armada. In the distance, he could see the approaching human alliance fleet. There were over 3,000 vessels of different sizes and designs, representing dozens of species that had once bowed to Vex rule. "My lord," Admiral Zix said quietly behind him, The fleet commanders are asking for orders. Do we fight or surrender? Vex didn't turn around. 24 hours had passed since Captain Reed's ultimatum, and he had spent every minute struggling with a decision that would determine the fate of his people. Around him, the great throne room that had once echoed with laughter now felt like a tomb. "Tell me, Admiral," Vex said finally, "in 2,000 years of conquest, what did we build that was worth building?" The question surprised Zix. "My lord? Monuments to our glory? Cities of beauty? Art, literature, music? What legacy will the Vex Empire leave behind?" Zix was quiet for a long moment. "We built the greatest military force in galactic history, my lord. We conquered 300 star systems. We ruled over billions of subjects. And now it's all gone," Vex replied. "Destroyed by a species we called primitive. Do you know why we lost, Admiral?" "The humans fought without honor," Zix said bitterly. "They used suicide attacks and turned their civilian ships into weapons. They broke every rule of civilized warfare." Vex finally turned to face his old friend. "No, Zix, we lost because we never understood what we were fighting. We thought humans were like us, conquerors seeking power and territory. But there's something else entirely." General Kix entered the throne room, moving slowly on his injured leg. "My lord, the human fleet has reached the outer system. They're broadcasting a message on all frequencies." "Show me," Vex commanded. The main display activated to show Captain Reed standing on the bridge of his flagship. Around him, representatives from dozens of species worked together as a unified crew. The sight was still strange to Vex's eyes. Natural enemies cooperating as if they were old friends. "People of the Vex Empire," Reed began, "your military forces are defeated. Your subject worlds have joined our alliance. Your leaders have a choice. Surrender now and keep your core worlds, or continue fighting and face complete destruction." The display switched to show tactical information. The human alliance fleet had surrounded the Vex home system completely. There was no escape, no hope of victory through force. "However," Reed continued, "we offer more than just terms of surrender. We invite the Vex people to join our alliance as equals. Help us build something better than an empire, a galaxy where different species cooperate instead of fighting, where the strong protect the weak instead of enslaving them." General Kix spat in disgust. "Join them? After they destroyed our empire?" But Admiral Zix looked thoughtful. "My lord, perhaps we should consider it. Our people are tired of constant warfare. The civilian populations on our core worlds have been sending messages asking for peace." Vex studied the tactical display. Even if the Vex fleet fought with desperate courage, they would last perhaps an hour against the overwhelming alliance forces. And then what? His people would be defenseless, their worlds occupied by enemies seeking revenge for 2,000 years of oppression. "Open a channel to the human flagship," Vex ordered. Captain Reed appeared on the screen, his expression patient but alert. "Commander Vex, have you made your decision?" "I have questions first," Vex replied. "If we surrender, what guarantees do we have that you won't simply execute us as war criminals?" "The Alliance Council will decide on individual cases," Reed said. "But our goal is justice, not revenge. Leaders who committed atrocities will face trial. Those who cooperate with the transition to peace will be treated fairly. And our people, our worlds, they'll be free to govern themselves within the Alliance framework. No more forced tribute, no more military occupation of civilian populations. Your species will have the same rights and protections as every other." Remember, Vex was quiet for several minutes, thinking. Everything he had known, everything he had built his life around, was ending. The Vex Empire was finished. But perhaps his people could have a different future. "General Kix," he said finally, "order all Vex forces to stand down. Transmit our surrender to the Alliance fleet. My lord, Kix protested. We can still fight. We can make them pay dearly for their victory. And accomplish what? Vex asked. More death? More destruction? No, General. The Empire is finished. It's time to think about what comes next. He turned back to Captain Reed on the screen. We surrender unconditionally. I place myself and my military commanders at your disposal. Reed nodded solemnly. A wise choice, Commander. Welcome to the beginning of a new era. As the Vex fleet powered down its weapons, and the Alliance ships moved in to accept the surrender, Commander Vex realized something that would have seemed impossible just months before. The humans hadn't just defeated his empire. They had shown him what real strength looked like. And for the first time in his long life, he felt something that had been missing from the Vex Empire for 2,000 years. Hope. Asterisk.